Burkina Faso, a land rich in gold, zinc, and cotton. A treasure chest, yet its people have long seen little of that wealth. For years, foreign companies dug up the gold, sending profits abroad while local communities struggled. Schools lacked books, hospitals lacked medicine, and roads crumbled, even as trucks hauled away resources that could fix it all. The people worked dangerous jobs for low wages, watching their heritage sold off in secret deals favoring multinationals. It's a paradox. A wealthy nation, but a struggling people. The dream was always there. One day, the wealth would serve the people, not just outsiders. This wasn't just about money, it was about dignity and sovereignty. The idea grew. The resources of a nation should belong to its people. This simmering desire for change was waiting for a spark, and that spark came, a tragedy that would shake the country and change everything. The injustice was no longer invisible. The people's patience had run out. The time for change had arrived. The story of Burkina Faso was about to be rewritten, and it all began at a mine called Percoa. The Percoa mine, one of Burkina Faso's largest zinc mines, run by Nantou Mining and global giant Glencore, was supposed to bring hope. For years the region had struggled with poverty and limited opportunities, and the arrival of the mine was seen as a turning point. It was more than just a business venture, it was a promise of transformation for an entire community. It meant jobs, progress, and a share in prosperity for the local community. Young men and women dreamed of steady paychecks, new schools, and better roads. Parents hoped their children would have brighter futures thanks to the mine's presence. But mining is dangerous, and the workers trusted the company to keep them safe. Every day they put on their helmets and boots, believing that the systems in place would protect them from harm. Safety briefings became a daily ritual, a reminder of the risks that lurked below the surface. The miners were fathers, sons, and husbands, risking their lives for a better future. Each shift underground was a sacrifice, made in the hope that their families would one day live free from want. Their loved ones waited anxiously for their return, every day a test of faith. The mine's zinc connected them to industries worldwide, but their safety was often just a line on a budget. Profits soared as trucks carried ore to distant ports, yet the people at the heart of the operation sometimes felt like an afterthought. Whispers about safety grew louder. Were emergency plans enough? Was the rainy season taken seriously? Some workers worried that shortcuts were being taken, that warnings were ignored in the rush to meet quotas. Water is a mine's greatest enemy. A flood can turn a workplace into a tomb. The threat was always present, especially as storms grew more intense and unpredictable. Underground, even a small leak could spell disaster. The promise of prosperity began to crack. Doubts crept in as small incidents piled up. Cracks in the walls, equipment failures, uneasy glances exchanged between workers. The community hoped the company's promise included protection. They gathered at meetings, voiced concerns, and looked to the mine's leaders for reassurance that their lives mattered as much as the zinc beneath their feet. But that promise was about to be broken in the worst way. The warning signs had been there, but when disaster struck, it was swift and merciless. The mine's risks were real, and the consequences would be devastating. Families were left waiting for news, rescue teams raced against time, and the world watched in shock. The world would soon see just how fragile that promise was. Headlines flashed across screens and the global zinc market trembled, but for those in Burkina Faso the loss was personal and profound. The Percoa mine was about to become a symbol, not of hope, but of heartbreak. The dreams that once filled the air were replaced by grief and unanswered questions. The stage was set for disaster. As the storm clouds gathered, so did the sense of dread, and the silence that followed would echo for years. And the nation would never be the same. The tragedy at Percoa would leave scars that could not be erased, a stark reminder of the cost when promises are drowned by neglect. April 2022. In the heart of Burkina Faso, the rainy season arrived with a vengeance, bringing with it a sense of unease that would soon sweep across the nation. Torrential rains battered the countryside, transforming familiar roads into rivers and overwhelming the fragile infrastructure of rural communities. At the Percoa zinc mine, the deluge proved catastrophic. Floodwaters surged past barriers, breaching the mine's defenses in a matter of minutes. Deep underground, miners had little warning. A flash flood roared through the tunnels, cutting off escape routes and trapping 8 men far below the surface. Above ground, chaos and fear took hold. Rescue teams raced against time, deploying massive pumps and working around the clock, desperate to reach the men before it was too late. As the hours stretched into days, families gathered at the mine's gates, clinging to hope. Their faces reflected a mix of anxiety, exhaustion, and the faintest glimmer of faith in a miracle. But hope faded with each passing day. After 39 agonizing days, the rescue turned to recovery. The bodies of the 8 miners were finally found. The miracle never came. 8 men, 6 Burkinabe, 1 Tanzanian, 1 Zambian, lost their lives in the darkness below. Their absence left a void in families, in the community, and in the nation's heart. The tragedy sent shockwaves through Burkina Faso. It was more than a mining accident. It was a national trauma, exposing the broken promises of safety, responsibility, and care that had been made to workers and their families. Questions erupted across the country. How could this happen in an era of modern mining? Why did it take so long to mount an effective rescue? Who would be held accountable for the lives lost? Anger grew at a system that seemed to value profit over people, at foreign companies that reaped rewards while local communities bore the risks, and at leaders who failed to protect their own. The mine was shut down, its gates locked. Hundreds were left jobless, and the community was plunged into grief and uncertainty, their livelihoods swept away with the floodwaters. The silence that followed was haunting. The once bustling mine now stood empty, a stark reminder of lives lost and questions that still demanded answers. The Percoa disaster became more than a local tragedy. It was a symbol of a nation's pain, a wound that would not heal easily, and a call for justice that echoed far beyond the mine's gates. The disaster exposed the deep power imbalance between foreign corporations and local lives. It forced a reckoning, demanding accountability from those who had long operated in the shadows. The people's anger became a rallying cry. Their grief was transformed into determination, a demand for change, for dignity, and for respect. The story of Percoa had shifted. What began as a promise of prosperity had ended in pain, leaving scars that would shape the community for years to come. And as the world watched, the silence of the mine spoke volumes about loss, about injustice, and about the urgent need for change. After the tragedy, the Percoa mine stood silent. Machinery still, jobs gone, hope fading. The company put the mine on care and maintenance, leaving a community in limbo. Months passed. The government watched a valuable asset sit idle while people suffered. The company's excuses wore thin. A global giant claimed it couldn't restart one mine. The sense of abandonment grew. If the company wouldn't act, maybe it was time for Burkina Faso to take control. The failure to reopen the mine was the final straw. The silent mine became a symbol of a broken system, Burkina Faso's wealth managed by outsiders, its people left behind. The stage was set for dramatic change. A new leader was ready to step forward. The people demanded action. The government was listening. The time for waiting was over. A new vision was about to emerge. Enter Captain Ibrahim Traoré, a young army officer with a bold vision. He spoke of sovereignty, dignity, and taking back control. The Percoa mine wasn't just a failed business, it was a symbol of injustice. In May 2023, Traoré's government took control of the mine, declaring the state would run it for the people. This was more than a business move, it was a political statement. The message was clear. Burkina Faso's wealth would serve its people, not just foreign shareholders. The move was celebrated nationwide, a reclamation of pride and hope. For the first time, the people saw a leader standing up to global giants. The government argued, the mine belongs to Burkina Faso, and its wealth should benefit Burkinabe first. This was the start of a new chapter, empowerment over exploitation. The idea was simple, self-determination. By seizing the mine, they seized their future. A tragedy was being transformed into hope. Now the government had the mine. What next? The land, once carved open for gold, was now in the hands of the people. The question lingered in the air. How could this moment become more than just a change in ownership? Could it spark a transformation for everyone who called this place home? Instead of just digging for profit, imagine a new vision, one where the mine's wealth is used to heal, to build, and to unite. Picture a future where the riches beneath the soil are channeled into the lives above it, creating something lasting and meaningful for generations. What if the very first profits didn't just disappear into distant bank accounts, but instead built a state-of-the-art hospital for the Percoa community, a place of healing born from tragedy, where hope could take root and grow? The Miners' Memorial Hospital could stand as a promise kept, honoring the 8 lost lives. It would be more than a building. It would be a living tribute, a daily reminder that their sacrifice was not forgotten, and that their memory inspires a better future. Here, children could be vaccinated against deadly diseases, mothers could give birth safely with skilled hands by their side, and anyone, no matter their background or wealth, could receive the care they need. The doors would be open to all, making health a right, not a privilege. Every brick laid would tell a story, that national resources can nurture the nation's people, that the wealth of the land can be transformed into the well-being of its citizens. The hospital would rise, brick by brick, as a symbol of what's possible when a country invests in its own future. This is resource sovereignty in action, prioritizing people over profit, and putting the needs of the community at the heart of every decision. It's about local voices shaping local destinies, and leaders working hand in hand with their people. The mine's money could fund not just the construction, but also the equipment, medicines, and salaries for doctors and nurses. It could bring in the latest technology, stock the pharmacy, and ensure that every patient is treated with dignity and skill. Wealth would flow into the community, not out of the country. Local businesses would thrive, families would have new opportunities, and the entire region could feel the ripple effects of investment that stays close to home. The impact? Lives saved, infant mortality reduced, families given peace of mind. Children would grow up healthier, parents would worry less, and hope would become part of everyday life. The hospital would be a beacon of hope, a tangible sign of real change, shining bright in the night, reminding everyone that progress is possible, and that the community's future is in its own hands. People would see the benefits of national control with their own eyes. They'd walk the halls, meet the staff, and know that this was built for them, by them, with the resources of their own land. It's not just theory, it's a doctor holding a newborn, a child recovering from malaria, a grandmother getting the medicine she needs. That's the real treasure hidden in the earth, the power to save lives and build a legacy. A tragedy turned into a legacy of life. The story of the mine would no longer be just about loss, but about hope, healing, and a future shaped by the people themselves. This is what change looks like, when a nation's wealth is used to lift up its people, and a community's dreams are finally within reach. Why stop at a hospital? The vision can grow. Once the hospital is built, mine profits could fund new schools, classrooms, books, and real opportunities. Healthy people need education. The nation's greatest resource is its young minds. Investing in schools means investing in future doctors, engineers, and leaders. Scholarships, teacher training, and computers could break the cycle of poverty. A healthy, educated population is more productive and less dependent on mining alone. The wealth from the ground would cultivate the wealth in people's minds. It's a long-term strategy, planting seeds for future generations. Every new classroom would be a symbol of national control and opportunity. People would see the zinc coming out of the ground and the school rising down the road. National sovereignty would become real and personal. It's not just a slogan, it's the key to a child's future. This is how a nation builds itself up. What Traoré's government did at Percoa was about more than economics. It was about pride. For too long, Burkina Faso's story was written by outsiders. Taking control of the mine was a new declaration of independence. It said, "We are capable, we are sovereign, we choose our own path." This act sparked a wave of confidence and unity across the country. Now the mine builds hospitals and schools, forging a bond between people and state. It's no longer us versus them, it's just us. This spirit can transform a nation, driving people to build and overcome together. The narrative shifted from victimhood to agency. Burkinabe are now the protagonists of their own story. Empowerment inspires art, innovation, and a renewed sense of identity. National pride is more than a flag, it's belief in potential and purpose. This pride is contagious. Other African nations are watching. Burkina Faso's actions show there's an alternative to the old model. The Percoa story is now a Pan-African story of reclaiming dignity. A people are waking up to their own strength. The road ahead won't be easy. Running a mine and managing profits for all is a huge challenge. There will be obstacles, international pressure, the risk of corruption, and the need for transparency. But for the first time, hope is real. The Percoa story has shifted from tragedy to potential triumph. Hospitals and schools funded by national resources are now within reach. This is resource sovereignty made real, a blueprint for justice and equity. The Burkinabe spirit is being channeled into building a new kind of nation. The future is now in their hands, to be forged in their own towns and villages. The world is watching.